Kevin. Well, thanks for joining me on Ukulele J channel on YouTube.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'd like to talk a little bit about the John S. Kinnard ukulele. I'll be taking the RTU home to do a review and check it out, but I'd like to find out some of the fine details of John's ukuleles, his build, and what makes him special compared to other builders.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to say every builder is special. Everybody's got their idea of what a ukulele should be, and John has basically taken his ideas and incorporating them into a ukulele. And so, what you have here is you have this is a tenor size. It incorporates a 17-inch scale. Some of the design features are it has a twin carbon fiber, we call them truss rods or support rods, that kind of go on each side of the center line. And what that does is it gives it support this way, but it also gives support this way, so that you don't get any torque or twist that could eventually, just due to the nature of wood, happen maybe sometime in the future, so he compensates for that. In addition, what he does is he laminates two solid pieces of wood for the neck. And what it does is, by book matching this, you actually get opposing grain, and consequently that gives you a more stable neck. And again, it's something that may not have any effect for 10 years, 15 years, but maybe 20 or 25 years down the road, it could. What John is basically trying to do is build what we call a legacy ukulele, something that you can play your entire life, and then hand off to your grandkids or your kids or whatever. So
down the road, humidity, temperature, changes like that really are going to be it'll be impervious to those type of dramatic changes.
You really can't say that they'd be impervious, because wood is by nature is hygroscopic, meaning that it can take in moisture and it can give up moisture, and consequently whenever you buy, whether it's a wood instrument or whether you buy a nice piece of wood in furniture, you've got to take into account the environmental conditions that you're dealing with. A low relative humidity is going to have an effect on any piece of wood. So when we sell somebody a uke, or when we have a uke built, we always kind of go over what's important when you do store your uke. We suggest that you store it, if you can, store it in a case. If you have a relative, you live in an area that has relatively low humidity, like maybe in the high deserts or in the mountains, or in the wintertime when you have the furnace on, okay, when that relative humidity gets down to 35%, you've got to really be aware of that, because it will have an effect on any uke built by any maker doing anything to try to prevent that.
So
that's
it's a good
just
idea
the nature.
To have a humidifier in the case.
Always, if you can do that, always have a humidifier. Not necessarily in every case, but you should just be very aware. Now, one of the things that we recommend is that you can buy one of the a damp it, something like that, or you can even take a sponge and cut it in two, wring it out, put it in a plastic bag with holes punched in the bag, and then just put it in your case. That's usually enough to give it enough moisture to maintain that relative humidity. One of the old tricks in the old days was guys would take an apple and they'd cut the apple in half, they put it in a baggie, and they put it in their case. Not only does the case smell good, but it actually will hydrate the wood.
That's a good idea.
And so when you take it out and you have this dried up apple core, it's time to get a new apple. So it's really important. But yeah, as far as in the, building to that, it's very important that you account for things that maybe you're not going to see on the outside, but are going to be something that's going to prevent something from maybe occurring. And that's why you don't see twin carbon fiber rods, but they're there. You don't really notice until somebody points out that these are two solid pieces of wood that are laminated together with opposing grains, so that they compensate for each other, they offset each other, providing for a more stable neck. The neck joint between the neck and the body is a dovetail. Okay, John is pretty old school when it comes to that. And so when setting that neck, what's really important is not only that you get a good solid fit here, but you also get the right angle of the set angle between the neck and the body, because this is going to have a direct effect on the action and the playability of the ukulele. Because you can compensate for it somewhat with the nut. You can compensate or check that the nut in the saddle, but it's usually built into the actual angle of the neck in relation to the body. So that's very important. What I always like to point out with John's ukuleles is the body's finished separately than the neck. So when that is joined together, that joint right here between the heel and the body is very, very critical. If you look at some ukes, they finish the neck on the body. So therefore, you can see actually a buildup of the.
Kind of a residue or something.
It's not necessarily a residue, it's just the actual finish itself. But this is a mechanical, so in other words, when that's joined together, you're actually going to see the lutherie capabilities that John exhibits. Now, one of the things for John is he's an ex-jeweler. He used to make jewelry, and so he used to spend his entire days with jeweler's glasses on, and these glasses are 5 times normal vision. He builds all his ukuleles with those glasses on. From the time that he's inspecting the woods, from the time that he's setting the neck, from the time that he's doing the binding or the headstock, he's always got them on. And I call him a superhero because he's got 5 times normal human vision. So what's interesting is when he hands you something and you look at it, and he's been looking at it under 5 times, normal vision. When you look at it under normal vision, you're blown away. You're going, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that's the degree that which he builds to, and it really shows when you look inside. The one word that is you always hear when somebody looks at the build for John Kinnard is the word clean. They go, that's so clean because there's no glue marks, there's no misalignment of the bindings, and one of the reasons why he does it is he does it because he's got that 5 times superhero vision that he uses, and he builds to that. So when you start looking at the seam between the heel of the neck and the body, or the top of the fretboard with the body, you're going to see nothing but nothing, because there's nothing there to see, because it's almost seamless. So we're real proud of that. And if you took any of the Kinnards, like we had 4 or 5 of them out on the table here at the Uke Fest, and I would hand it to someone, and I'd say, look inside, and I'd pick up another one and say, look inside, because they all look the same. They all look very clean, and we're real proud of that. And John, to John's credit, that's the standard that he builds to.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the radius and the fretboard. One of the things that I noticed when I picked it up when we were talking is that the radius was almost a taper. It was a little different in the front versus the back, and that was something you pointed out was actually intentional, and there's a reason for that. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things why you have a radius fretboard in general is because it really facilitates barring chords, so it makes it easier. So it's almost like power steerings. When you can take a uke and you have a radius fretboard, what it's going to do is going to allow you, because your natural tendency for your finger is to be curved like this, when you apply it to the fretboard, what it's going to do is it's going to be a more natural position. So what happens is, as you know, when we're up here at the nut, we're at 1 3/8. When we're down here, we're slightly larger. So what happens is this radius that John hand machines into each of these fingerboards, that radius will actually start to adjust as it gets further up the neck. So consequently, it flattens out slightly down here at the 12th fret, the 13th fret, than it does up here at the 1st and 2nd fret. And that is, again, it all boils down to playability for the person playing the ukulele. Ease of play is really the reason why you want to do that. So that's one of the key things, and they're all done by hand. Each one, after this thing is set on the neck, he actually will take it over to a belt sander, and he'll actually shape it, and he'll sight down and he'll shape it, all under 5 times normal vision. So when you put that on that uke and you start looking at the playability, you may not really see it, but you're going to feel it, and that's really what you're looking for. It's almost like, I would say, power steering.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, how long has John been building guitars? I know that's what he's been doing, and now he's moving into the uke world.
Right.
He's been out there now quite a while, and I've seen a lot of his guitars listed various places. Mm-hmm. eBay, I saw a couple. Matter of fact, the other night, just happened to look him up and saw some beautiful parlor guitar that was on there. Mm-hmm. So how long has he been doing the guitars, and what got him to move into the uke world?
Well, John's been building stringed instruments. That includes guitars. He's built banjos, mandolins for about 40 years. He's been building since the late 60s, early 70s, during the heyday of, we call it the hippie heyday. And so he started working with stringed instruments. So he's been doing it for over 40 years. As far as the ukulele are concerned, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, he was approached by a distributor in Japan and wanted him to build some concerts for the market over there. And so he did that. And that was his first foray into the uke industry. What happened as far as where we got involved was that I wanted him to build me a tenor. I had bought one of his concerts that he had from that batch, and I said, do you make a tenor? And he goes, no, I haven't built tenors. And I said, well, can you build me a tenor? And that's how it started. So he built this tenor, And he did such a phenomenal job that I just said, John, we've got to get the word out on these ukes. John, being a craftsman, being an artist, being a jeweler, being a old hippie, I mean that all good, is he's just really unassuming, very shy. And so me being unassuming and shy, I just decided that, you know, I'll take it. And so basically what we've done is we've teamed up, and so my goal is to get the uke in people's hands so they can see for themselves the build quality, because it really is an amazing thing when you get it in your hand and you start really looking at it closely.
Great. Well, I thank you very much for all the information today, and I'll be doing a detailed review on the Ukulele J channel, talking about some more of the technical specifics that you provided me, and I'm really looking forward to giving it a workout and enjoying it for the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.